So many people have kind of looked at how Microsoft has handled things with this year and previous years and things like that and compared it to like the Xbox One era and things. And I think that Microsoft has really kind of come a long way. And I've mentioned that multiple times. But I think other people are starting to notice it. Also, I think that, and I know that people might think I'm crazy or some kind of tinfoil hat or something, but I think some of the media outlets are starting to catch on that we've caught on with this whole weird situation with the quote unquote Xbox tax, and they are like walking it back a little bit now, right? So it's like, oh, everybody's caught on that we're totally bashing Xbox nonstop. We better stop that and maybe start doing some good stuff too. So it is nice to see that some sites are being positive with Xbox, in particular. The interesting thing was the Game Awards. Like I said, I'm all for the Game Awards. I just wish that the panel was a little bit more even keel, in my opinion. And it's like, listen, people were upset, or they go, oh, there's no Xbox tax, because look, Spider-Man 2 didn't win a single award. After playing that game didn't deserve to win a single award. The only reason why it was nominated is because it's PlayStation, right? Let's just be real about it. So when I open up and I look at this and I see this that popped up today, Xbox quietly won the Game Award with PlayStation coming up short. It's perfect. It says Microsoft was clever this year, to say the least, when it came to how it played its hand in the Game Awards. Yes, they did win a handful of awards, but pre-show, the big controversy was about their mega launch Starfield not securing more than a single nomination. Best RPG, which of course it lost to Baldur's Gate 3. That was deemed somewhat significant failure given how profiled the game was in their own slate. However, Microsoft instead leaned into Jeff Keighley's main draw of the show, the fact that it's more or less become a winter version of E3. Well, really, it's the only E3 now, given the demise of the summer show, and publishers and Xbox and PlayStation just doing their own showcases. So Microsoft planned very well. They won a few awards, Hi-Fi Rush for sound design, Forza for racing, sports, and accessibility, but what they did was they thread in the larger Xbox-centric announcements and reveals throughout what was good. A really great look at Hellblade 2 out next year, and a second best music performance of the show. Impressive to land with a game that didn't even have a release date, so the entire thing served essentially a chunky 10-minute ad for the project, well above and beyond most other games showcased, outside of course Hideo Kojima's OD. And then of course Kojima's OD project he's making in collaboration with Microsoft. That part was glossed over for a bit, but even though we didn't see much from it and it was mostly a Kojima Keighley love fest, it's a big deal that Microsoft is making it with him. And between this and Hellblade, that's like 20 minutes at least just for these two projects. One of the biggest announcements also of the show was Arcane was making a licensed Marvel Blade movie, a game, a third person endeavor that debuted with an eye-catching trailer and a base concept that everyone seems to be on board with. Even though there was some oddness about Xbox now saying it was Xbox exclusive, everyone expects it to be that way, and insiders are saying it definitely is. Baldur's Gate 3 also launched on Xbox after its Game of the Year win. Despite 0 Game of the Year nominations, Microsoft still managed to attach itself to Game of the Year itself by finally launching the game on Xbox the night it won. The Larian folks were allegedly supposed to announce that on stage, but forgot. But it did launch all the same. Microsoft played this very well, and Sony just wasn't nearly as much of a player this year. When in the past, of course, it's Game of the Year, it's one Game of the Year and loads of other awards, not so in 2023. The biggest Sony story is probably that Marvel Spider-Man 2, despite being nominated for 7 awards, lost all of them. I don't think that's quite a reflection of the game, but rather the insanely stacked nominees list this year, but it happened all the same. In terms of the actual wins, given that Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3 swept so many categories, it's hard to squeeze much of anything out. Square Enix's Sony exclusive Final Fantasy XVI won Best Score, a category that was stupidly glossed over by Jeff. The Last of Us won Best Adaptation, which was not a shock given its stack of Emmy nominations, and Most Anticipated Game has shifted from Tears of the Kingdom to Final Fantasy VIII Rebirth. A Rebirth showcase was indeed a highlight, but that only has 3 months PS5 exclusivity window. The only thing of Sony's exclusive mega franchises featured was God of War Valhalla, which looked like perhaps a story expansion for a minute, but instead it's a soon-to-be launch-free roguelike combat mode. Interesting perhaps, but not a huge deal, and on top of that, God of War actor Christopher Judge found himself in hot water over a joke aimed at the now Microsoft-owned Call of Duty team, which did not go over well in many circles. Sometimes the timetables just don't line up and you don't have much to reveal when your competition does. Sometimes your very big game debuts are in a year with lots of big or even bigger games, and this year the Game Awards were mostly dominated by multi-platform games, so Xbox tried to inject what they could to do the non-awards part of the show. Sony, for its part, didn't. That may change in 2024, and everyone is just one big showcase away from mega hype, but this was interesting to watch it unfold. Now, I think the key thing to take away from this is basically kind of what I've been saying for a while now, which is that Microsoft really has a lot of the hype going for it. And I get like people are going to go, oh, well, that hasn't translated to sales or whatever. I mean, look, we still have a ways to go. If people would have just went by the first, couple years of Xbox 360 on the market, they probably would have thought that failed too, or time for them to get out of the industry, right? But it was really that third year where they picked up a lot of steam and things like that, and I think that's where Microsoft is kind of hoping this goes. And I think like selling the Xbox Series X for a low price of $350 recently should help them out somewhat as well. Get that into as many hands as possible for as cheaply as possible, because let's just be real, Microsoft, you're not going to make the money off the hardware regardless of whether you sell it or not, or give it away basically for $350. It's practically giving it away, but you're not going to really make that back off the sale of it regardless of it's $500 or $300. So you might as well hope that whoever is really interested in it and picks that up is also going to pick up, Game Pass for a couple years, or potentially pick up, buy some games every year to really kind of make up, or both, games and Game Pass to try and make things that much better or whatever. So yeah, I think Microsoft is definitely doing the right things in terms of what they're able to accomplish with this. And, they've really kind of nailed, I think anyway, the aesthetic to get people excited again about Xbox. You have to wonder at some point, are Sony fans going to wake up? Are they going to, realize what's going on here? Are they going to call Sony out at all? Like, these are the things that I kind of wonder. Like, I'm kind of a casual Sony fan. I like to play PlayStation games, the exclusive single player stuff. So for me to call them out, I don't know if it does much good. You really need some of those hardcore PlayStation fans to kind of call them out and go, okay, well, you don't have a roadmap. We had a lackluster year with one major game release. We have no major first-party games scheduled for next year. I mean, outside of baseball, which, will likely be on Game Pass day one again. So, what's the deal? So I think that that's sort of where we're kind of at this particular time. And we'll see what happens. I'm interested in it. I'm sure you guys are too. But what do you think about this? People starting to give Microsoft and Xbox their flowers a bit. I think it's super interesting. So let me know what you guys think. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.